So where we're at, a number of different phases in the evaluation, laying the groundwork, that was the development of the model, learning as we go, reflecting and looking forward. So our evaluation is broken down over the 5 years, and right now we're focused on the sort of learning as we go piece. Some our evaluation questions are around that contribution to the capacity and innovation. How do those activities change? What are those lessons? What are the things that are supporting innovation in the community? What can we learn from that? What are the things that are supporting resiliency in organizations? And what can we learn and share about that as well? The impact of the relationships and networks, the impact on capacity is the key themes there around capacity and innovation, and what are some of the outcomes. So those are the questions that are guiding our evaluation. What we're doing, pretty much everything we can think of in terms of tracking activities, thinking about working on developing a community asset map, and watching that grow over the course of the 5 years. Those feedback surveys, the key informant interviews, developing a capacity assessment measure, social network analysis, all different ways of just thinking about how can we get the information that we need to learn from this process and share it, and also report back to say what the results are. So as we go, these activities might change. We might add a few things or take a few things off. But right now we're focused on the activity tracking, which is helpful to know what's happening, the key informant interviews, and then the capacity assessment. So just in terms of where we're at and learning from this evaluation, I think we have a really strong sense that promoting learning piece has been very strong in terms of the offering the different workshops. We've a lot of really positive feedback from organizations who've participated, particularly in the strategic planning sessions, and the value that has had. And engaging people. I think if we talk about sort of the developmental moment around the building of the relationships and the presence of social prosperity, it was really with the hiring of the project manager and having sort of a person on the ground in Fort McMurray, and how much that helped in addition to the work of Nancy in building engagement and around social prosperity. And just learning, sort of thinking forward in terms of developing the shared space and how to engage folks in that process through the visioning and the different change summits that have happened. So right now we seem to be at a tipping point, I think, in the project. There's been a lot of really strong groundwork that's been done, some things that have moved forward. We've got the framework, some clear directions and strategies to move forward, but really the next step is about putting those into action and not just talking anymore, not just bringing people together to vision and talk about how things can be different, but really pushing forward the movement and the action. I think that's kind of where we're at. I think that characterizes it. Our next piece, so I said, those two themes around innovation and capacity building, where we want to focus our efforts. And so what we're working on in collaboration with SectorLink is this nonprofit capacity assessment tool. So this is in your package, I believe. And we are thinking about, capacity building. What is capacity building? And Kathy's going to talk a lot about that this afternoon. But in terms of what's available in the literature, there are a number of different frameworks that are out there that talk about capacity building within organizations. And we want to think about what those frameworks say and how applicable they are for the local community, and what can we learn from those frameworks. So we've come up with this assessment measure that's really trying to do a number of different things. Some of those we want to help support organizations assess the capacity within their own organizations, think about their ability to deliver responsive programs and services, help develop supports for organizations to build their capacity, develop and benchmark the capacity indicators within the community. Where are organizations at? We know that there's a lot of variability, but let's get a better sense of what that looks like in the community. Also working on developing a directory of not-for-profit organizations in Wood Buffalo. And of course, it also contributes to the evaluation as well. And in that tool, it goes through, you'll see a number of different questions, sort of, the general kinds of, capture the state of affairs kinds of questions in the organization, the staffing, volunteers, staff turnover, what are the impacts of that. But then, the second part of that is a framework that lists a number of standard items that are associated with capacity building. They're well established in the literature. They're fairly standard. And just getting a sense of where organizations are at on these different items. Do they even make sense? Are they applicable? Are they not applicable? Are they priorities? And what can we learn from that? Where do organizations fall? So we've gotten, piloted this measure. We've gotten some really good feedback so far. Some really interesting sort of preliminary sense or insight into organizations and how they see themselves and where they rank themselves and the impact things like staff turnover have on them, the strength of the board, the engagement of the board, stakeholder engagement, staff collaboration. So a lot of really good, insightful information. And also, in just asking and getting feedback on the tool, we've also found that the EDs who have completed it so far have found it helpful just in reflecting on their own organizations. And we really want to encourage folks to keep this for themselves, that this isn't just about us collecting information for the evaluation, that we really want to develop a valuable resource for organizations to do their own capacity assessment. Right now, so we're starting with this one measure, asking the ED to complete it out. But the idea is that as we move forward, that this can grow. We could develop ways of doing a capacity assessment collaboratively, where you bring your board member, staff member, maybe a participant or a community partner, and really thinking critically about the organization and where you're at and where you need to go next to help facilitate your strategic planning and sort of collaborations you might be interested in engaging in. So really wanting this information to be useful for yourselves as organizations. We'll also use the information to present sort of an aggregate view of the not-for-profit sector, sort of summarize it and share it, look at those benchmarks as I was talking about, and as we move over the course of the project, to watch that progression for the sector and in building that capacity. We'll do it on an annual basis, so this is our first year of trying this out, but we're going to do it again over the course of the project to really get that center of that first circle there, that building stronger, more resilient not-for-profits. We want to use this as a process to facilitate it, not just for research, but also as an intervention as well. So the tool that we have now, like I said, it's based on the literature and some fairly standard items around capacity. But as we go forward, some of the things might change a little bit. As we learn and as we reflect on how relevant these are, this is what's out there. Does it make sense in this context? Does it work for Fort McMurray? We really want to make sure that what we're measuring makes sense for the community, that it's useful, that it can be ongoing, and that it reflects what's meaningful and relevant for you as organizations. So does anybody have any questions about that? Yes. Yes, well, we'll take everybody's responses and we'll summarize it, and when we share it back to the community, that we're not going to report on individual responses by individual organizations, that we're going to present the overall summary.
So are we going to do a draw?
Yes. Does anybody have any questions about the measure? It's available online. And we'll be sending out an invitation for everyone to complete that. We're also going to be posting the PDF on the Social Prosperity website and the SectorLink website. And SectorLink has been, we've worked really well and very closely in developing this tool, so they're going to be promoting it also. And I like the hard copy because it helps me read through everything and reflect on it before, see the whole picture before I start answering questions in an online format. But if you complete the online copy, you can scan it and email it to us, so you don't have to do it twice, or you can just go straight to the online version, whatever you're comfortable with. Anything else about how to complete it? Yeah.
So who would you recommend actually complete it?
Well, in the first round, we're recommending that the ED complete it. If the ED can complete it in collaboration with the board chair or collaboration with another sort of senior management person in the organization, that would be great. And hopefully move more towards that collaborative model of looking at the capacity of organizations. And that's all. There's all the instructions at the beginning of the survey to help explain that, what to do. So, and if you have any questions at all, at any time, you can contact Nancy or Bonna at SectorLink about the survey. You can contact me, or we want to make sure that this makes sense and is working for you. Any questions? So, in recognition of those brave souls who were the first to pilot it, we do have a draw for an iPad, and we'll have a second draw for the next round of organizations that complete the survey to give out the iPad. Get an iPad as well. There it is.
New iPad?
It is I don't know. So for the first organizations, with them. Elaine Reed. Is Elaine here? Yes! You won the iPad for completing the capacity assessment measure already.
Is Elaine here?
Oh, she's not here?
Does she have to be here? Is that a rule? No?
Oh, here? You have to make an executive decision. I don't want to decide.
Rock, paper, scissors?
Should I just
pick another name.
Pick another name.
Okay.
She's not in the bathroom or anything?
No? Okay, I hope the next person's here. Chantel Beaver? Yay! There you go. So there you go. So we'll do a draw again.
After the last July 31st.
Yeah, after July 31st, we'll do a second draw for the organizations that complete it. So thank you very much.